This is Bonnie Vent. What you're about to experience is perhaps the largest field experiment known to date. This trans-channeled session is with a high-level group that refers to themselves as the Connection. They are attempting to build a bridge of communication with serious researchers as well as those seeking answers to the age-old question of what happens after we die. Filmed live and streamed over the internet, this experiment was interactive. Participants were able to ask questions in real time via text chat. It was facilitated by John Strife, located in Virginia, while I'm in California, so no queuing was possible. The participants were not chosen in advance. They simply heard about the broadcast taking place and decided to ask a question. We now join the Connection. Broadcast is now started, so now I'm going to hit start recording.
Okay.
Okay. That seems to be working fine.
Okay, I see you. I hear you. I've got Skype mute. I've got Ustream muted, and I've got you're hearing me. I take it.
Yeah. So you shouldn't have any loop back or any issue.
No, it sounds very clean on my end.
Okay, good.
Okay, well, let me, while you're starting there, let me give a shot at this. We are recording, am I correct?
Yes, we are recording and we are broadcasting both in HD and webcam.
Okay, fine. Let me just time this out. You go ahead and get started, and I'll start speaking. And here we go. Welcome to Conversations with the Dead with Bonnie Vent, the Spirit Advocate. I'm John Strife. Today we'll be communicating through the Connection, using the principle of interdimensional communication, where we are able to hear the voices of those who have passed and those who are higher guidance. It may be these communications in fact originate through a channel that connects dimensions. There's a theory of consciousness that we in fact use this channel not only for things like spirit communications, but also for mundane things such as memory itself. Some people may be more open to receiving more than their own memories. This would explain why those people can know what others are thinking, perhaps know the future and the past, and even communicate in real time with others residing in those other dimensions. While this cannot be proven scientifically today, only due to limitations in technology, mediumship and interdimensional communication, like you're about to see, actually gives us a way to know what may be going on in that other dimension through the subjective perception of the medium. Bonnie Vent is a spirit advocate who's for years been in touch with this other dimension and its residents. They've sought her help for various reasons, whether they're recently deceased or left the physical world over a century ago. Now, here's Bonnie Vent, the spirit advocate.
What a wonderful introduction. Thank you so much. That showed tremendous understanding of the process. We really were not aware that you were as aware as you are. Thank you so kindly. As John mentioned, we are trying to establish a bridge from the third dimension into the fourth and fifth. This bridge is designed for your comfort and is connected with love. We hope to establish communication with you via video and have you generate questions that we can then answer for you. We are trying to establish a meeting of the minds, as it were, so that we can communicate more effectively with you, and you can also stretch and grow into new areas of development for yourselves. There are a multitude of things that may come through this channel, and we wanted to let you know this. Some are really very basic, as in people who have already gone through the process of exiting your dimension and entering into the next, and they have graciously stepped forward to assist you in this process, because who better than someone who has actually gone through this to provide you with examples of what the process might be like for you as well. We also want to once again reach out to the research community, because the work that you are doing will attract a certain element of the population that we perhaps cannot. We work more on the level of feeling and what resonates with the individual person, whereas the researcher has the ability to explain to the rational mind why these things might be occurring. A person who dwells in the rational would not necessarily accept the process that you are observing currently. And we understand this. We understand the skepticism. It is intriguing to us that you are developing and working on machines trying to do what is a natural process, and that more credibility is put into the machine than is put into the human element. This is somewhat saddening to us, but we do understand, and we will assist in any questions that serious researchers might have, as well as individuals. And we are happy to provide this service to you. We hope to minimize fear, anxiety, because you are indeed going through a tremendous shift. And regardless of what aspect you want to look at on the diamond that is what you know as life, you will find this all around you. Even in your broadcast media of today, you will start to be getting an inkling of what lies ahead. We do suggest that you look more at your science channels than you do your broadcast news. Your broadcast news is deceiving to you. They are trying to provide a picture that fits into the rational mind. If you scratch very slightly below the surface, you will realize that you're not necessarily been given the truth that currently exists. So we suggest that you use your powers of discernment and that you feel into the information that you're being provided. Listen to your gut, as they say, because this will be the way of working in the future. The rational mind works in what you consider to be your reality. And you should know, and especially the researcher should know, that the area around you that you call reality can fool you. And it does fool you on an ongoing basis. So, since we are currently working today with John, we would like to first ask him if he has any particular questions that he would like to pose. And we are aware that this is a test in this process. And so we hope that in the future that people will listen to this message and want to join in again with us. And it is open to any and all that care to communicate with us. The mechanisms are in place, and John will be moderating those mechanisms. So if you do have a question, he can communicate that through directly to us. And we are so happy that this technology has now been put in place and that it's finally beginning to work. It is a joyous, joyous day. And we hope that John also feels the joy and exuberance that this opportunity opens. A very interesting door for him personally, and also for the research that he has been doing. So for now, we are going to sit here for a minute, and if John has a question or questions, we would be more than happy to entertain those.
Thank you very much. I'm sure that some people are wondering who is actually speaking, so let me start with that question. I have another one after that. But can you tell us a little bit more about who you or what you are? Put it in terms, if you can, that have meaning to us in our physical world.
Name seems to be very important in the dimension that you currently reside in. It is actually a part of your imprint, so it is very natural that you would be looking to name us and to categorize us in some fashion. The name that you can refer to us as, if you so desire, would be the connection, because that truly is our purpose. Therefore, we're using that as our name. We provide connection points, and it's interesting in that the particular channel that we have chosen has an innate ability in connecting of dots. And truly, that is what we do as well. We connect dots for you. We establish connection points that have always existed, but you have not been aware. You could not see and observe them. So we are trying to put a light on these connection points and walk you through the process of connecting these points to each other to get you truly where you need to go, which is the opening of the next room, the next doorway that you walk through.
Thank you very much. That does help immensely. Let me follow that vein just a little bit. I hear the term "we" being used quite a bit here, implying a group of some sort. Say we, our, and so on. So to me, implies a group. Would I be correct in saying that you are, in fact, a representative of a group, or am I hearing a group speaking at one time? Is that accurate, or is there another way of my limited way being able to conceptualize who and what you are?
You are hearing a group consciousness directed through one channel. And we want to bring this up to you personally, John, because we understand that you have some knowledge on audio recording, and you know that this is entirely possible to channel multiple audio input into one particular channel. And this is indeed what we are doing, and it comes through in a blended fashion. And so you are not speaking to one individual, you are speaking to a collective. For you, it is easier to hear the one voice, because truly, if you were to hear all voices speaking simultaneously, you would not be able to comprehend the information. And so we are doing this intentionally to make this easier for you in the third dimension.
I see. This brings up another interesting question regarding how you communicate in your dimension. Is it what type of communication do you engage in order to? I assume the concept of exchange of ideas is a very real thing for you. How does that work on your side?
The closest thing that you have to the type of communication that we engage in would be what you refer to as telepathy, except that we are able to receive multiple thoughts at multiple times and process them in a way that you do not currently have the capability to do.
That's very interesting. I see. So you can process multiple thoughts at once. So it sounds like it is in fact a group, and that implies to me that there are individuals in the group. Would I be correct in saying that?
There are individuals in this group. As a matter of fact, the group is growing and becoming quite large. This is indeed a research project in the dimension that we are in. We have now invited you to join in with this as part of the bridging of the gap between the two dimensions, and to bring you more into the realms that we currently experience. And so we have our own scientists and psychologists and a myriad of experts, including some regular individuals that just have interesting, relatable stories. And so in the research community, this would be considered, I guess, anecdotal evidence. And so it's not so different that we bring together all skill sets. It's maybe a little different for you in that it's all coming through one particular source. So you really are getting a maximum amount of information delivered to you in a way that you are able to digest.
Okay, let us move from this to a little different topic, one that has actually become quite interesting on our side recently, although again, like with many things, it's by no means a new topic, just a resurfacing topic. And it has to do with how one perceives things and the concept of false memories. It's been said and reiterated recently that many people experience various sorts of what we call here anomalous phenomena as a function of their own fantasy proneness and that sort of thing, belief systems and the like. And I'm curious to know, since you're seeing it from a totally different perspective, first, do you have a notion of what I'm speaking of on your side? I understand that you know what I'm talking about, but does that exist on your side, that problem, that issue? And do you have any sense of what degree that might actually be happening in our dimension?
There are some that have, the term being used is awakening, which is really just an awareness that there is more than the third dimension that surrounds you. And the people that are experiencing what they would consider to be anomalous or things that don't fit into the third dimension are truly getting a look-see into the fourth and fifth dimensions. These are things that do actually exist. They are not imaginary. They can be from past, present, or future, including very, very distant past. And so you would be seeing something from thousands of years ago into your third dimensional reality, and it's really not that it came into the third dimension, it's that you actually stepped slightly into the fourth and fifth dimension. So these are not imaginary things that people are observing. Truly, everything is occurring simultaneously. Only in the third dimension, where there is linear time, do you walk a timeline of past, present, and future.
So, from your perspective, then, the future, as such, is it correct to say the future is happening all? It all happens from our perspective all at once, and if we saw it from your perspective, is that how it would appear to be?
Everything is happening simultaneously and is driven by the intent of the experient. And you're seeing this in the third dimension in people that talk about the power of intention. This is yet again a bridging of the gap tool that can be used. It is unfortunate that some chose to use this as a way to try and generate money, which has no valid purpose in any dimension other than the one you reside in. But the fact is that the teaching is there, and it is up to the person who absorbs the information, the intent of how they want to use that. But that is part of bridging this gap, is to use the power of your intention as to what you would like to experience. And it's a little slower in the third dimension from the time that you generate the thought until the time that it reaches your physical perceptions. It is much faster in the fourth and fifth dimensions. Now, there is a little element of caution here, which has been said by many over many years: be careful what you wish for. So you do have to be very careful about your thoughts, and that you keep your thoughts in alignment with what you truly want to experience, as opposed to what you'd like to avoid. People do spend an inordinate amount of time thinking about worst case and what they're going to do if and when this bad thing happens. That can, especially in the fourth and fifth dimensions, actually bring that bad thing into your reality. So you do want to be careful about that and live more of an intentioned life of what you do want to experience, as opposed to pain avoidance.
So what you're saying is that pain avoidance can be achieved simply by doing nothing more complicated than living by intention. Do I rather understand that?
That is correct.
Let's see. Very interesting. What knowledge do you have of religions? How do religions, I'm trying to think of questions others might have watching this for the first time. What knowledge do you have of religions, and what is, I don't want to ask for an opinion per se, but how does it work? How does it fit into your perspective? And that's the way to ask the question.
That is a tricky question, in that we do not wish to offend people and their belief systems. However, it is a third dimension concept that was put into the dimension by men and their activities, and is used to, in some ways, control people and control their behavior. It does not have a place in the higher level dimensions. In the dimensions that we are referring to, you don't really require there to be laws, because everything is generated by love and positive thought. So controlling bad behavior, so to speak, has no place, because there truly is no good or bad. There is just experience. And if you want to experience something that others might perceive as a negative experience, it's yours to do with and to play with as you see fit. So the organized religions are indeed man-made. They do have a seed of truth, as in there is a higher level energy that is in some ways controlling what people are experiencing. But there is no intention to control people on such a minute level as you see in a lot of the religions. It is much better to be in connection with the higher level guidance that came in with you than it is to reach for external sources or idols that others may put up there. It is difficult what I'm saying for some people, but if you go to the simple concept of what do you feel? How do you feel about a particular thing? And if a belief system is causing you to generate bad feelings or to feel badly about other groups who do not believe as you do, then you really need to rethink whether or not that belief system is serving you well. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, it does, as a matter of fact, and it certainly makes sense to me. I was also thinking, as you were speaking about that particular topic, on a slightly different area of interest, to me at least. There has been some, there's thinking over here on our side, and I'm sure it's shared by some of your scientists and philosophers as well, having to do with the so-called absolute truth. And I won't say too much more about that. I'll just use that, and I assume that those in the group know what I'm talking about. What do they have to say about the so-called absolute truth and the universal ground? I'll use those two terms. What do they have to say? If I ask them, what do you think about that stuff? Are we on the right track with that? How does it relate to you? I'm going to be interested in knowing what they might have to say.
We're not quite sure how we want to address this because the term absolute truth doesn't exist for us in the area where we observe. There is search for and a desire in humankind to search and explore and to hope that they have indeed found the absolute truth. But as you may have become aware, as you search, the truth alters and changes. And it is a dynamic. And it is about the exploration and playing with, in a very childlike way actually, playing with what you observe in your reality around you. And so what is true or what is false is part of the duality of the third dimension. And it is really, in the fourth and fifth, it is really all about the playing. And there is no search for absolute truth or holy grails or being the first to discover or any of those kinds of concepts. They truly do not have any relevance here. It is about the exploration and about the play. And we hope that people will find this to be attractive because it's very open. And you can literally do and dream and think about whatever you so desire. That can be a little scary to some, but for those that get the hang of it, it is really quite a joyous experience.
Are you aware of those in our dimension who seem to understand the things you're talking about, who seem to practice this on a regular basis, and these people tend to be found in anything common about these people?
There are placeholders that are, and this channel is one, there are many people that were brought in to assist in this particular point in time. And they do have some commonality. And they may not even be consciously aware of the commonality that they have. They all have been, at one point in time or another, awakened to the fact that what they perceived as reality may or may not be true. and that it could possibly be a perhaps holographic image generated from another source. And they play with this idea, and in some cases they've been able to find little flaws and little gaps in the holographic images that are being presented. And this intrigues the scientific mind. The scientific mind loves anomalous things in nature. And how do they work? And let's pull them apart and see. And so they literally follow the little breadcrumbs of the anomalous activity that they're observing and find that one anomalous activity leads to another. And it is very intriguing to them, I'm sure. And yes, they all have had circumstances in their past where perhaps they have had a peek into the fourth and fifth dimensions, and they can't quite shake what they've experienced. They can't quite say, oh, it was just my imagination, because something in them anchors them to that thought and the pursuit.
Just to clarify, we're talking about then, you're saying those in science actually have had these experiences and these backgrounds. It's not just about philosophers and folks who thought it was having a metaphysical background, but those who are actually in the scientific community are saying have had these experiences, may not even be aware of it, or are subconsciously aware of it, but maybe not overtly. Do I understand you correctly?
Some are very aware. They are reluctant to speak about it publicly, but privately they do pursue these in a clandestine way, if you were, hoping to find, as you were speaking of earlier, the absolute or ultimate truth, so that they can then feel comfortable in talking about it in a public way. And it's an interesting thing, because even though you are a scientist, you are still a human being living a human experience here in this third dimension. So yes, do scientists wind up in car accidents and have near-death experiences? Do scientists wind up with having a serious enough medical condition that affects their brain that they get a peek into altered realities? Yes, they absolutely do. And they bring these experiences back with them as they have crossed back into the third dimension. They've decided to stay here in order to facilitate the transition from third to fourth to fifth. And so they may not be consciously aware after time that they agreed to come back here in order to do that, but they certainly were at the time that the events occurred.
You've said several times during this, talked about a fourth and a fifth dimension, which kind of implies that these two are in some way separable. And I'm just wondering if I have that right, and if so, can you explain in simple terms how the fourth and fifth dimensions, as you label them, differ in reality?
It is very hard for us to be able to relate this information to you, other than to say that it becomes very freeing. In the fourth dimension, you still remain as somewhat of an individual being. In the fifth dimension, you start blurring back into the source of the existence, and these shades of gray continue up the scale until you get back to the actual source of all that is. That is a very hard thing for me to explain to you. If you want to refer to it as God, that would be fine. that is a label that most people are comfortable with. Higher power also would be another, that spiritually oriented people are used to that term. So you are still in fourth, an individual. As you proceed up, you blend more into your original source.
I see. There is so much more we could talk about, but I'd like to turn it back to you for a minute, as we've been doing this for about half an hour now, and we might want to give the channel a rest. However, I would like to turn it back to you. I've certainly asked a number of questions. I think this makes for an interesting thing for us to think about here, and certainly perhaps form some future questions, or more questions for a future time. So thank you very much, and I'll turn it back now.
Thank you so much for the excellent questions. We hope that we were able to convey this in a way that is relatable. We do not wish to talk down to you, but we do understand that there is a gap in the perception that we have as opposed to the perceptions that you have. And we are trying to bridge that gap and to find a level of understanding that is comfortable for you. And we hope that we have achieved that today.